The third largest opposition party in South Africa, the EFF, has come under fire for inviting a Kenyan scholar, Professor Patrick Lumumba, to deliver the EFF a lecture ahead of the party's 10-year celebrations. Professor Lumumba has been criticized for supporting the Ugandan parliament and a president of Uganda in relation to approval of the Anti-Homosexuality Act. SABC News spoke to Lumumba on this and other issues. He started by commenting on the role of the AU.
It is still crawling, and we've been crawling for too long. The beauty is that we know we are crawling and we ought to be up and walking. We could have done better. The Organization of African Unity, created in 1963, had a clear mandate, at least in those early days, of ensuring that countries regained their political independence. When the organization transited to the AU, one would have wanted to see a greater pace in all sectors: political stability, education, agriculture, health, trade, and unity. But that is not happening as fast as we want it to happen. And we are not impatient. We are saying that others have done it and we ought to do it, and the sooner we do it, the safer we are. So in a nutshell, the OAU is punching below her weight.
Looking at the current crisis on the continent, the war in Sudan, the DRC, which is part of the Great Lakes, you look at what's happening in Mozambique, Cabo Delgado, ahead of Zim elections or elections in Zimbabwe. There are issues that are related to peace and security. Where did we go wrong? There was hope that we will reduce the coups. You look at the West Africa in particular right now.
It is true that we are doing very badly. Remember, the year 2021 was declared by the African Union as the year of silencing of the guns. And this was made on the realization that if we don't silence the guns, then all the things we are talking about, including Agenda 2063, Africa Continental Free Trade Area, will not be realized. And the tragedy is that we find ourselves in a situation where the guns are even louder. And this is attributable to poor political leadership. Chinua Achebe put it so very well in 1983. The problem of Africa is simply and squarely a problem of politicians who are myopic, who are selfish, whose only claim to fame is that they use political office for short-term political benefit to the detriment of the people. And that is why, as you've rightly said, we now see a conflict which could very easily degenerate into a civil war in Sudan. We know what is happening in the DRC, Eastern Congo. You've talked about Cabo Delgado, the coup d'etat that we have seen in Burkina Faso and in Mali, the attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau. All these are statements of poor leadership. And as the wise say, rebellion and coups are the language of the people who are not heard. And the time is now that Africa must re-examine governance. There is also the truth is that some of these governance systems that we inherited from the colonizers are proving very difficult to be effective. The thing we call democracy, which is defined for us by Western world to mean periodic elections complete with multi-party politics, these are some of the things that we ought to be bold enough to ask. Are there elements within our traditional governance structures that can be infused in governance in order to limit conflict and to ensure that conflict is mediated in a proper fashion?
Looking at other issues like your challenges facing the ordinary people, there's also some concerns in terms of how leaders are conducting themselves. I mean, an example of the president of Uganda, who has been in power for quite a long time, the recent law that was passed by that parliament. Many people say this is a violation of the human rights.
On that one, I agree with the President. It's not about President Museveni. I personally have supported President Museveni on that bill. And this is a point, this is an issue on which we'll have different opinions. The regime of rights which we are being asked to follow is a regime of rights that was imposed by the Western world in 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. When the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was being initiated in Paris, no African country was independent. And at that time, they say the civil and political rights were the most important. Then they said that economic and cultural rights were important. Then they say development rights. Now they say all rights are interdependent and therefore they are universal. But we must ask ourselves the fundamental question: don't we have rights that are uniquely African? And on the question of this idea of being told periodically by the Western world that these are the rights that we must deal with, it is incumbent upon us to come out very clearly. When the white man came here and imposed laws on us, whether it's the common law or the Dutch Roman law, they told us at that time that there is something called sex against the order of nature. Has nature changed? So we must be very slow to personalize laws. We must be very slow. And these arguments that they bring about bills relating to LGBTQ, they'll never say them to the Arabs. They'll never go to Kuwait. They'll never go to Bahrain. They'll never go to Brunei. They'll never go to Saudi Arabia. They'll never go to Indonesia to tell them. It is Africans who they think are tails to be wagged. So on this issue, the government of the Uganda and the people of Uganda, I am with them 100%. There is no freedom outside of the law.
How do you balance the decision or right to choose?
Choose what? The choice must be limited according to the mores of a different community. And in any event, should we be talking about LGBTQ when we have no food on the table? And the danger, including with you journalists, is that now when you interview people, you have your own position that you want to impose on us. We refuse. We know.
In the United Nations Human Rights Council.
But the United Nations Human Rights Council, is it some god? Is it not a body that is composed of human beings who have created a body where some are permanent members and some are not permanent members? Remember, in matters of morality, numbers don't matter. It is the mores. You may disagree with me, but I'm telling you without batting an eyelid and unapologetically that some of us oppose LGBTQ, and you who are anchors, I'm now telling you, because I've seen it with other anchors from other parts of the world, you have a position and you want to impose on us. We refuse. Yours is to midwife, to ensure that my views, if others have a different view, you go and interview them. But from where I sit, I oppose LGBTQ with every ounce in my life.
Including that they must be killed?
Who said they must be killed? No, there is nobody who has said that they must. I want you to read the law. They have not said that. Nobody has said that.
Finally, I'm looking forward to deliver the lecture. I know you don't want to get into the content of the letter, but there's also people in South Africa who are saying, because the EFF took a stand and called President Museveni not to sign this homosexuality bill into law, how can they invite you?
You know, it is tragic that we are living in a world where there is a competition of ideas. And then you are telling people, only invite people who think like you think. I find that intellectually insulting. I know many people, many friends with whom I do not share views on many things. But when we disagree in an agreeable manner. If you are inviting people, you want to associate with people who think the way you are, then that is the unanimity of the grave and the graveyard on the cemetery, and that is unfortunate. Democracy is a competition of ideas, and I don't impose your ideas on you, and you don't impose your ideas on me. Those who think like that really are people who defy definition.